License to launch, winning strategies for entering regulated markets.
As a Roman, I would like to give all of you a very special welcome to my city. Please, it's amazing to see such a big show, a gaming show in Rome for the first time ever. It's really amazing. I should congratulate the whole Sigma team, a man in particular, for having delivered this. I really believe that it's going to be 3 exciting days with lots of interesting talks. We are hoping that we will be providing some of those interesting talks. And on that note, I'm happy to introduce you to my fellow panelists today, starting from Markus Hanna, who is the CEO of Bet2Max, which is a terrestrial and online gaming operation entirely based in sub-equatorial Africa, right? With licenses in a number of African countries, focused entirely on the African market. One interesting thing that you will notice is that the profile of each of these speakers is very different one to another. And so this should hopefully help making our short conversation today quite interesting because of their diversity. Next to Marcus, we have Dario, who is the Deputy General Counsel at Betson. And then we have Ray Lee, who is from Tada Gaming, all the way from Taiwan, but with a very, I would say, strong footprint in Europe already. They are providers, game providers. Last but definitely not least, my good friend Revat Kwaseli from Georgia originally, who is the CEO of VBet Romania, which is part of the big BetConstruct ecosystem. So again, one Africa-based terrestrial / online gaming operator, one very traditional, solid, blue-chip European operator, one Asian game provider, and one, I would say, a bit of everything of all the things that I just mentioned at the very end of this panel. So I would like to start this conversation asking each of you to share with the audience your experience of having entered a market, different markets, and what that entails in terms of challenges. What is the biggest challenge that you have encountered so far when you were setting about entering a new market? Challenges can vary from, technical challenges, commercial challenges, cultural challenges, logistic challenges, or a bit of everything. And I would like to ask each of you, because of your very different profile, to tell what, in your case, was the biggest of those challenges and why. Shall we start with Marcus, maybe?
Sure. Thank you, Carino. I think for us in Africa, the biggest challenges we face at the moment tend to be, firstly, regulatory, and secondly, commercial/cultural. Regulatory because as we see African countries moving into being regulated environments, which is definitely a good thing and the right thing, we sadly see the growing pains which come from a lack of education and awareness about the gaming industry. So, for example, on the one hand, you have a market where we don't operate, but the Ivory Coast, which they feel it's reasonable at the moment to command depending on exchange rates, but well over $1 million for the license, which is unreasonable given the size of the market. You have other regulators who, they're not familiar with the omni-channel approach. They want to segregate out the retail license from the online license, and then sometimes also from the sportsbook license, which is challenging, especially because sometimes it means dealing with 3 different regulatory entities just to get your business up and running. For us, being an omni-channel operator, we operate online, casino, sportsbook, and retail. So sometimes you might have to deal with 3 different entities just to get your business up and running, which obviously is more red tape, more headache, more back and forth, more difficulty. And then the commercial and cultural challenges in a continent as diverse in Africa are always going to be very pertinent. Sometimes 2 countries which are right next to each other, take for example Liberia and Sierra Leone, have entirely different consumer preferences when it comes to the games they play, whether we're talking about casino, even the sports they like, which football leagues are a priority for the players. So you can't have one copy-paste approach across the continent. You really need to be able to adapt quickly to whatever preferences and changes you encounter in a market when you enter it. And that is, I think for us, those are more prevalent than logistical or technical challenges, which given our experience in the continent aren't much of an issue for us.
Thank you. Now let's move to Europe. Dario.
So I would say that for us, when entering a new market, the challenges we may face are really one-dimensional. It's a mix of technical, commercial, and cultural factors, and navigating them requires strategic foresight and operational flexibility. Every market entry for us starts with a pre-study assessment, which is not just a box-ticking exercise, but it's a deep dive into jurisdictions, compliance framework, technical requirements, commercial landscape, including marketing restrictions and permitted gaming verticals, as well as cultural dynamics. And the outcome of such assessment may have an impact on the market entry strategy. For example, sometimes having very heavy technical requirements, requiring, let's say, a lot of developments on the in-house technical platform may push us, let's say, to opt for a third-party platform, which is already certified and proven in that market. This is about speed to market while remaining fully compliant with the local technical framework. On the cultural front, obviously, local knowledge may be a game changer. Sometimes acquiring existing operators with an established footprint and experienced personnel may be more efficient than applying for a license from scratch. Likewise, entering into a joint venture or a partnership with a local entity may help in navigating local dynamics that otherwise would be missed. And this approach can be an advantage also in markets where there are heavy marketing restrictions on total bans on advertising, because acquiring, for example, an existing business which already has brand recognition and operational continuity can help, let's say, overcome barriers that like new entrants will struggle with. So I would say that in conclusion, each market demands a tailored approach, but it's that flexibility combined with a rigorous analysis is what enables us to enter with, let's say, with confidence and operate with integrity.
Okay, but I'm still curious to know what was the biggest challenge that, I mean, Betson is active on a wide number of regulated markets in Europe and outside of Europe. Of all the files that you have been handling so far, which of those was the most challenging one and why? You have listed a number of key factors, anticipating also the second question that I have for you. But at the moment, I would really like to know what was the biggest headache that you had when dealing with the licensing process?
It depends. For example, also these may vary. We have faced in some markets several challenges from a technical perspective, especially like markets that require heavy investments on the technology from a technological point of view. But also, let's say the cultural factor is something that, in any case, it was, let's say, quite important. Betson is, in any case, quite strong in Europe and LATAM. No? These are the two regions where we are investing the most. This doesn't mean that we didn't invest in other regions, in other markets in the past, and this doesn't mean that we will not do it in the future. But, for example, there are other regions like North America or, for example, Africa, where probably we are not so, let's say, strong as we are in Europe and in Africa and in Latam. And this also, let's say, is can be a cultural, let's say, factor. And but as I said, for a company like Betson, having, let's say, operating in over 25 regulated markets, challenges really may vary from technological point of view to a cultural point of view. So it's difficult to just choose and pick one specific aspect. Also, marketing restriction, if you want to speak also about the commercial landscape, can be in any case a factor that can be really important. In any case, also here, it's a matter of being creative and try to, say, to navigate also, let's say, marketing restrictions in order to remain commercially sustainable, also where, let's say, the conditions are not so in favor of operators.
Thank you, thank you. Now, Ray, you are coming from Taiwan, but
yes.
Yeah, but you also hold a number of different licenses across the European spectrum, from Sweden, UK, Greece, Romania, and I'm sure I'm missing something else. So
yes.
yeah. So and also outside of Europe, in Ontario, for instance. So I'm really curious to know, given your background and given your place of origin, do you find it particularly challenging, and on which note to launch a market outside of the Asian comfort zone, so to speak?
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Ray. I'm from iGaming. And I think we are the only Asian game providers that has the most multiple B2B licenses. And when it comes to the hardest part for us, I think what's about KYC part. As an Asian game providers, I think that in the iGaming of Asia, we normally don't want people to know where I live or who I am, or to disclosure my financial statements. And when it comes to the regulated markets first, and then we need to do a lot of KYCs to show where we live, also about where's the company, and a lot of KYC process. And actually, we are a listed company based in Taiwan. It's like a public company, so we have a lot of shareholders. Pretty much everyone can be the shareholders. So when they want to do KYC, and then pretty much they want to do the 24 million people in Taiwan for KYC, because most of the people have our shares in Taiwan. So we try to convince them to do the KYC only for the directors of the board. And so I think the hardest part for us was the KYC part. But after you finish all the KYC part, we'll come to the technical part, because about the technical questions, I think just said before, in different markets, even if you have the B2B license, but you still need to certify the games. Also, you still need to comply with a lot of regulations by each different markets. For example, Italy, there's a lot of things that you need to do, although they don't have B2B license, but there's a lot of things that you need to do for the technical part. And so I think the hardest part was KYC before. And then, of course, is to understand all the regulations of each markets, and also to get all the things ready Like I think Telegaming is just a game provider that only 3 years, but actually our headquarters has been 37 years in the iGaming society. But we just came out about 3 years ago to the European markets, and I think we are one of the fast-growing game providers in the market. Also, within these 3 years, we already got 7 B2B licenses already. So I think we are now pretty familiar with the European regulations markets, and hopefully we will be entering into more regulated markets in Europe in the future, in the near future.
So of those 4 objectives to qualify the type of challenge, which one is the prevailing one in your case? Logistic, cultural, technical, or of other nature, commercial?
I think for me it's about culture. Yeah,
Cultural.
because there's a lot, not just about KYC, there's also a lot of compliance when you want to work with an operator, or when you want to work with an aggregator, that you still need to providing a lot of documentations about residential address or a lot of contract, and the legal team can take 2 to 3 months to take a look. So I think it's about culture, because different culture, like you need to face from 20 years of the Asian cultures and into like European cultures, like you need to everything's very strict, like very strict by one, and the contract is very very complicated, and you need to take a clear look of the contract and everything for that. And I think the most complicated part is about the culture, and also the technical will be the second one.
Thank you. Now, Ravaz, based on what you have heard so far, where would you position yourself in terms of what the others have said?
If we're speaking about the challenges, definitely I will agree that for us, biggest challenge is cultural and compliance. I would not call it challenge, mostly Quirino. For us, biggest challenge, I would say, thing has not been mentioned there. All 4 points which you listed, combining them and creating a best strategy to deliver best to users and to grow business in a right way. It's to combine all 4 points what you listed in one funnel and to make business run that way. When it goes to localization, this is definitely one of our things which we do in every country. We try to localize everywhere, wherever we are, which gives us additional advantage, which adds local flavor and touch to our products, and we put a big focus on it. Worth to mention our last market entry, which was in Romania, where we build, and it's still ongoing. We are building a powerhouse for Eastern European market, so we put really, really big focus on localization and definitely compliance also, which is basically our guideline how to work in every market, and connecting tech compliance with our tech, what we're having in-house, it delivers best results for us.
Okay, fair enough. Now, Dario was earlier on was listing the type of process that at Betson they go through when they need to assess a market opportunity, a new market opportunity, which obviously entails getting to know that market in particular, gathering all the key data, the demographics, and this and that. So this brings me to the next question, which is this. Given the high level of fragmentation and diversity that we have from one regulated market to another, within Europe and outside of Europe. We heard from Marcus that to a certain extent in Africa, these are issues that are equally relevant. So given this kind of backdrop, how difficult it is for an international group to have in place a standardized or reasonably standardized process and protocol when it comes to dealing with a new market entry project. Is it possible to have you know, a kind of procedure in place that you apply as many times as are the projects that you are launching, or this is almost impossible given the fact that the country you go, the habits and the rules and the issues you find. So this is the question, and maybe we can start from you, Dario.
So it's true that each country has its own peculiarities from, let's say, a tax perspective, compliance perspective, commercial, let's say, perspective. But this doesn't mean that every time operators need to start from scratch. First of all, there are some regions where there is a partial, say, harmonization. For example, in Europe, through, let's say, EU regulations and shared compliance principle, but also where the regulatory, let's say, framework is fragmented. Internal protocols may serve as a compass to in any case, enforce consistency and, let's say, also reinforce reputation. I think that one of the strengths of operating as part of a large iGaming operator is the ability to establish and maintain a core set of standards, like a sort of regulatory backbone across markets. I'm referring to minimum standards when it comes to in areas like player safety, responsible gambling, anti-money laundering, data protection. And obviously, operators may choose to uphold such standards even in countries where there are, let's say, less stringent regulations, because they better reflect their brand values and their long-term vision. No? I would say that it's a bit like the philosophy behind luxury hotel chains. No matter where you are located in the world, you always expect a certain level of quality, service, and safety. And this is what we want that our customers feel when accessing our products. We want our customers to feel that they are accessing an environment, a space that is safe, that is built on integrity, that is responsible, regardless of the local jurisdiction.
Okay. And Marcus, do you agree with that, or do you have a different take from Africa?
No. Africa is very particular. I think in terms of entering the market, then this idea that you can have a standardized approach, it just doesn't work. I would say it's really a waste of internal resources. I do agree with Dario, though, that you need to make sure that once you've entered the market, your core offering is in order. The analogy of the luxury hotels works. I would even go more towards, especially with our industry being quite mass market, the McDonald's analogy. Every McDonald's looks and feels the same, the basics are the same, but then there might be one or two items in the menu which are tailored to each market. So you make sure you always have a good platform. You make sure it's always easy for customers to deposit money, to withdraw money. You get the basics right, but then definitely you need to adapt quickly and effectively to whatever it is that that local market is telling you, whether it's directly through customers simply coming in and telling to your face, we don't like this, we like that, or through a nuanced analysis of your statistics and trying to understand which products people are responding to.
And does that come for, I suppose, an additional cost for the company in terms of having to allocate specific resources and specific tools to entering a market versus another?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you just take something like, even when you want to launch a new marketing campaign, if I'm doing something I have to have something in Spanish, I have to have it in French, I have to have it in English, and in Sierra Leone, sometimes I even mark it in Creole, so local dialect. And it's not enough just to have it in Spanish. If I, for example, in Equatorial Guinea, launch a marketing campaign in proper Spanish, as you would learn in school, you might get no engagement. So it has to then be, again, tailored to the local market, to the way people speak, to the way they engage. So there is an additional resource because it means I can't just copy-paste things centrally at my head office and then expect it to work everywhere.
And Ray, are you closer to the standardized approach that was described by Dario, or the customized one that Marcus just mentioned?
I think as a game provider to get into the markets like there, as for operations, maybe you need to make sure the platform is ready. But as for a game provider, we need to make sure that our games are certified. Also, it's all by RNG based. Also, I think as a game provider, the thing that we need to do is like you need to have the courage to go into a market that you don't know if it's going to work, because we need to spend a lot of cost first. We need to to apply for the B2B license, we need to certify the games, and we need to have a lot of technical requirements, and we need to select the games that is suitable for the markets. But even though that we don't know yet, so as a game provider to enter the markets, that we need to have the courage to go inside first. So I think, as for us right now, we just get everything ready, and once we approach any opportunities, that we can already go in. Not just like if I go to a show, like I meet someone, but we don't comply for that market, and they say, oh, then I cannot take your games right now. So I think everything's ready from our side right now, and yeah, as a game provider.
I have a follow-up question for you, a little one. Do you find it any different to enter a market where, as a B2B, you require a license, versus a market, a regulated market, where, as a B2B, you don't require a license?
Oh yes, there's a lot of European markets that you don't require a B2B license, like for example, Italy, Portugal, Spain. But among all these markets, we need to do a lot of game certifications. Also, we need to comply a lot of technical requirements. Like for Portugal, we need to do SM result, integrated, and we need to have our games certified. And for Italy, there's a lot of long procedure for the ADM codes, for the game platform certified, to get approval by the government. So there's a lot of procedures on each of the regulated markets in European, I think.
Roberts, off to you.
In our case, definitely not. We know it's not working. We think that there is no exact formula which works on all the markets. Every market is unique, every regulation is unique. So basically, how we build this, it's following. We take in account legal requirements, compliance, and what's very important in this case, advertisement law. These three are the pillars on which we are building our structure and our strategy in different markets. So every market, in our case, needs unique approach to achieve this operational excellence, where we better striving always.
Okay, we still have a few more minutes left. I don't know if there are any questions from the floor. No? Okay. So the last question is the typical $1 million question. What is your personal recipe in terms of key ingredients to successfully enter a new market, a new regulated market? Marcus?
I think for us, it's the fact that we have been operating in Africa as a brick and mortar operator for the last 40-odd years. So, thus far, we've never failed in Africa. And that intimate knowledge and understanding of the continent, its diversity, different cultures, I think there are 54 countries in Africa. Across our team, you probably find 5 or 6 that we haven't operated in collectively as a group at some point. And there's a reason why those 5 or 6, they're simply not an option, like Somalia. So it means that we know the continent inside out. And I think that for us is the most important thing. And the last remark I'd make, which is a little bit of a tangent, but very briefly, is I think for me the most important thing is I would really like, ideally, to see every single market in the world become regulated. I would like to see every country be regulated. Now, I understand some countries don't want to have gaming, but I would still like those countries at least to put in a law which bans gaming then. because I would like really to see the end of the grey market operator and this sort of decentralized finance operators that are preying on, loopholes. I would like all operators to be like the BetSuns of the world, or like ourselves, focusing on regulated markets, being licensed and following the law effectively.
Dario, your personal recipe.
So carry out a proper assessment of all the key factors, and in any case, in order to find the right balance between, let's say, compliance and commercial viability, and also taking advantage of the awareness, the global awareness of our brand, but at the same time being flexible. So like going back to the flexibility I was mentioning at the beginning of our panel, in order, let's say, also to adapt to, let's say, local requirements, local demands.
Thank you. Ray?
My personal recipe to find the right operator, like to actually guide you through like the whole compliance process. Because as a game provider, we might be new to the markets, but the operators will be familiar with the markets, and they will guide you through all the compliance process that you needed. So I think the personal recipe is to find the right operator that actually support you, and also to guide you through all the compliance process.
As our time is running low, I'll be quick. It's definitely knowledge of the market, it's knowledge of the user, where we are going, because again, I'm mentioning it's very different from country to country, and definitely tech, which is game changer on every market. This is my recipe.
Good. I think we wrapped it up just on time with an unusual Roman style. More of a Swiss than Roman, I would say, but I'm happy that we hopefully managed to deliver some good tips for those that are planning to enter a new regulated market, be it in Europe or outside of Europe. I would like to ask you to thank my speakers, and I wish all of you a good continuation of the show.
Thank you so much to Crino and his guests.